The purpose of grace prayer. At its heart, a grace prayer is an expression of gratitude. Before or after meals, people pause to acknowledge that the food set before them is not something to take for granted. In many traditions, this simple act shifts the mindset from one of routine consumption to one of appreciation. It reminds us that behind every meal is a network of farmers, workers, cooks, and natural processes that made it possible. In religious settings, gratitude is directed toward God or a higher power who is seen as the ultimate provider of all things. Even in non-religious settings, grace can be a way of cultivating mindfulness and thankfulness for the nourishment of the body and the gift of sharing food with others. Recognition of human dependence. Saying grace highlights the truth that human beings are dependent creatures. We rely on the earth to produce food, on favorable weather, on laborers who harvest and prepare it, and on countless unseen factors. For people of faith, a grace prayer emphasizes dependence on God, the Creator, who sustains life. This act of humility pushes back against the illusion of self-sufficiency. It acknowledges that, despite human effort, food is ultimately a gift and a blessing, not merely a product of control or entitlement. A sacred pause in daily life. Meals happen multiple times a day, which means grace prayer becomes a regular rhythm in life. In the busyness of modern schedules, taking even a short moment to pause before eating transforms an ordinary act into a sacred one. This pause slows down the instinct to rush, inviting mindfulness. In many ways, grace prayer is a reminder that every moment, no matter how small, can be infused with spiritual significance. It brings holiness into the ordinary, strengthening community and relationships. When grace is spoken aloud in a group, it becomes more than personal, it's communal. Families, friends, or entire communities bow their heads together, uniting in a shared acknowledgement of gratitude. This simple act reinforces bonds between people, because eating together has always been one of the most basic forms of human connection. By praying before a meal, the gathering becomes more than just about eating. It becomes about sharing life values and blessings with one another. In this sense, grace helps meals become rituals of belonging. A form of worship and discipline. For religious believers, saying grace is a spiritual practice. It is not only about gratitude for food but also about recognizing the presence of God in all aspects of life. By consistently remembering God at mealtime, believers are reminded that faith is not limited to formal places of worship but extends into the daily and practical. This discipline cultivates a habit of prayerfulness and gratitude that can overflow into other areas of life. Cultural and religious perspectives on grace prayer. Different traditions express the purpose of grace in their own unique ways. Christianity. Grace prayers are common in Christian households, often beginning with thanks to God for providing food and sustenance. The term saying grace itself comes from the Latin gratiarum lectio, meaning act of thanks. For Christians, grace also recalls Jesus blessing food and feeding others in the Gospels. Judaism. The Jewish tradition includes Birkat Hamazon, the blessing after meals, and shorter blessings before eating, thanking God as the source of all provision. These prayers emphasize that eating is not just physical but also spiritual. Islam. Muslims recite Bismillah in the name of God before eating and Alhamdulillah, praise be to God, after finishing. These short phrases express recognition that food is a blessing from Allah. Hinduism. In Hindu households, prayers before meals often acknowledge the food as sacred and as a gift from the divine, sometimes linking it to the goddess Annapurna, who is associated with nourishment. Buddhism. In many Buddhist traditions, mealtime prayers focus on mindfulness, reflecting on the origin of the food, the effort that brought it to the table, and the commitment to use the energy it provides wisely. Secular practices. Even in non-religious contexts, many people pause before meals to simply reflect with gratitude. This can be seen as a form of mindfulness or meditation that brings awareness to the present moment. transforming eating into a spiritual experience. Without prayer, eating can become mechanical, just fuel for the body. With grace, eating becomes a spiritual act. It creates a moment where physical nourishment and spiritual reflection meet. Many traditions believe that blessing food not only honors its source, but also makes the act of eating more intentional, aligning the body and spirit, teaching and passing on values. Grace prayer also serves an educational purpose. In families, when parents or elders lead grace at the table, they pass down values of gratitude, humility, and reverence to children. It becomes a living tradition, teaching younger generations that meals are not to be taken lightly but to be received with thankfulness and respect, a universal human impulse. Even though specific words and rituals differ, the practice of blessing or giving thanks before food is nearly universal across human cultures. This universality suggests that humans instinctively recognize the sacredness of sustenance. Grace prayer is one of the simplest, most natural ways people connect the physical act of eating with the deeper mysteries of life. In summary, the purpose of a grace prayer is multi-layered. It is gratitude, humility, mindfulness, worship, community, and tradition all in one. It elevates a daily necessity into an act of spiritual significance. Whether brief or elaborate, religious or secular, grace prayer reminds us that food is more than material. It is a gift that sustains life, connects us to one another, and draws us closer to the divine or to a deeper sense of presence